The advisory committee for the VA SRD changes is finally scheduled to meet, and we have the Fed Reg document, and straight up, I will tell you what this means, okay? That's not the Fed Reg document. Here it is. I'm going to go through this here in a second about the advisory committee to the VA secretary, and why that matters is because this tells you that the VA changes for mental health, sleep apnea, and tinnitus, and those are just the big three that everyone is focused on here. But there are changes for neurological system, for ratings like radiculopathy, and then we have some COVID-related disability changes. And now that the advisory committee is finally meeting, we can expect some type of movement on these changes. And it basically boils down to three outcomes, okay? We have three outcomes here. Outcome number one, these aren't in any sort of ranking order. The VA makes the changes to mental health, tinnitus, and sleep apnea, and they do this immediately, which they absolutely can, because these changes are changing existing criteria, okay? And they're not adding any diagnostic codes. They're essentially just changing the symptoms and the percentages, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. They're not really adding anything. So the process is different if we look back at GERD and IBS changes, as those were new diagnostic codes changing the 38 CFR entirely, okay, for that system. Outcome number two, all right, the VA could push the changes to October 1st, which is the new fiscal year. And from a budget perspective, that makes the most sense to me. We see budget aspects on each of the changes, and I'll show you exactly where those are at. And in my opinion, this is pretty likely. Okay, if I had to choose one of these three, number two would be my first option. Number three would be my second option. Number one would be my last option. And number three, of course, the VA can kick the can down the road, and we'll see an update on the regulations. So let's go ahead and dive into the advisory committee, and then I'll show you where all the juicy stuff is here. So the meeting sessions are open to the public. The purpose of the committee is to advise the Secretary of Veteran Affairs, that's Doug Collins, on the maintenance and periodic readjustment of the VA SRD, that's VA schedule for rating disabilities. The committee is to assemble and review relevant information relating to the nature of care and character of disabilities arising during service in the armed forces, provide an ongoing assessment of the effectiveness of the rating schedule, and give advice on the most appropriate means of responding to the needs of veterans relating to disability compensation. On Tuesday, August 19th through Wednesday, August 20th, so for 2 days, the agenda will include a Federal Advisory Committee Act, FACA, overview presentation, updates on the VA SRD, and briefings from various staff on ongoing VA initiatives and priorities. In addition, on Tuesday, August 19th, 2025, the public comment period will be open for 30 minutes from 1:20 to 1:50 Eastern. That's PM Eastern. The public can also submit one-page summaries of the written statements for the committee's review. Public comments may be received no later than Tuesday, August 12th, 2025, for inclusion in the official meeting record. Please send these comments to Jadine Piper, I hope I pronounced that name correctly, of the Veterans Benefits Administration Compensation Service at, there's the email right there. I'll have this pinned down below in the comments, so that way you have access to that. Members of the public who wish to obtain a copy of the agenda should contact Jadine Piper at that email, provide their name, professional affiliation, email address, and phone number. The call-in number for those who would like to attend the meeting is, there we go. Phone conference ID, there we go. Write that one down. Members of the public may also access the meeting by pasting the following URL into a web browser. There we go. Okay. Starts at 10 to 2. Boom. Dated. There we go. Just came out. Okay. Now let's go ahead and look at the changes. So you see the final rule. The reason why I think they're going to discuss these three is because they're right around the corner. Okay. There is the tinnitus and sleep apnea, auditory and respiratory, and then the mental health there. There we go. Okay, let's look at mental health. I want to show you the budget aspects on where this actually is at, so I don't sound crazy. The VA has determined, let me zoom in here for you. Can you see that? Okay. VA has determined that this rulemaking will result in benefit transfer costs estimated at $103 million in 2024, $14.8 billion over 5 years, and $45.5 billion over 10 years. So there's absolutely budget concerns. And not to mention, however, neither of these options are more appropriate than current approach. That means it's going to happen. We just don't know when. So it goes back to those three outcomes. This is very hard to navigate, just so you know. If you want to go back to where all of these are found, you can go all the way back to how many times has a VA SRD completed action. Anytime you see completed action, that means it happened. Okay, so in 96, the respiratory system was updated there. You can just go and go and go and go and go forever and ever and ever. Let's see how many pages this thing really is. All the way to where we are at right now. Bada bing, bada boom. There's the COVID-related illness claims I talked about. There's not much to that. And then you, at least not right now, right? Like this is relatively new. I want to say, when was the first time we saw that? It was fairly recently. There's the proposed for Corona. Do I see any Corona again in 22? Long-term actions. Okay. Anyways, then you have the neurological systems there. I mentioned radiculopathy, but it's a ton. It's not just radiculopathy. It's the entire neurological system. They're not changing the percentage values, but they're changing the criteria. It's something to do with gravity and how they're more objectively going to measure the nerve damage in your sciatic nerve. Okay, that's just for sciatic nerve. It does this for all the nerves under that neurological stuff. But hey, we should, at a minimum, get an update to these dates here. And then this phrase here, what it's going to say, completed actions or not. I'll be on top of that. Just wanted you to know that these changes are underway.